Hello. I know I sound a little funny. I'm not too contagious right now, though, so breathe a sigh of relief. Thanks for coming out to the senior capstone reading. We have 3 senior creative writing students that are going to be reading from their final portfolios today. We're going to try to cap each reading between 15 to 20 minutes, and then there's refreshments on the back table afterwards. I'd like to remind you to silence your cell phones, and students that are here for extra credit, there's a sign-up sheet on the back table with a pen, okay? All right, I'm going to introduce each student. Different students will read different pieces. I'd like to let you know that they've written their own introductions because I don't claim credit for this beauty here, right? Each one represents a personality as unique as the next. So, here we go. And now, ladies and gentlemen, direct from his wildly popular tour of the outer planets, he's performed before the crowned heads of Europe and the potentates of Asia. He's the master of time, space, and dimension, and the oldest living college senior. Give it up for the hardest working man in show business, Daryl Pennington.
Thank you, Professor Wilson, distinguished members of academia, ladies and gentlemen of the student body, and to all the ships at sea, thank you for your gracious welcome. Today I will read from an essay describing the adventures Alec and I, a friend of mine, Alec and I had when we were wee lads in our 20s. I call it Shotgun Salvation. A Victorian house converted to an office stood across from the Denver Police Headquarters. There was a sign proclaiming Al O'Neill bail bonds, open 24 hours, in the front yard. Alec and I stepped inside. O'Neill, a huge man, had gray hair with big shoulders and a big belly hanging over his belt. He sat at his desk in what used to be the dining room. His wife, Patricia, was a slender, sharp-featured woman with short blonde hair and a surprisingly warm smile. She rose from the desk under the chandelier, and a very large Doberman raised himself up from behind the desk and stood at her knee. "Can I help you?" she smiled. The Doberman pricked his ears at her voice. "Yes, ma'am. We are wondering if you need some investigators." I made a point of being polite. The dog clearly cued on voices, and I didn't want to trigger him. Al came out of the dining room to measure us up. He was as tall as me and moved with the confidence of a man who had once been physically capable. We appeared, I'm sure, as unlikely a pair as he'd ever seen. I was tall and strong, and Alec was short and quick. He looked us over, and then he looked down at Alec. "You have any experience as bounty hunters?" "No, sir, but we both have degrees in criminal justice." I did the talking since everybody assumed Alec worked for me. Al asked our names, then turned to his wife. "Pat, what open cases do we have?" She handed him a stack from her desktop. "The newest are on top." Al leafed through the first 2, grabbed one, and gave the rest back to Patricia. "Come on back," he said. We followed him to his desk. "This guy is some kind of biker and has a lengthy record. Anyway, he missed his court date, and the judge just issued the bench warrant this morning. I'll start you at 10% of the bond until we see how you do." "How much is the bond?" $500. That was about $50 split 2 ways for taking down an outlaw biker. But we really wanted to get into this business. Come on, how bad could this guy be? I hesitated just for a moment. "Okay, what have you got on him?" Patricia appeared by his side, the Doberman trotting next to her. "I'll get you copies of his file." She turned and spoke over her shoulder as she walked to her desk. "Can I get you some coffee or tea?" "No, thank you, ma'am." She smiled again. I had the feeling she didn't meet many polite men in her profession. Al looked up from his desk. "Pat, give them a copy of the statute to finding minimus." "I will, hon." Patricia went back to her desk, sorted through some files in a drawer. "Look this over. Keep it on you when you are doing an apprehension." If the cops got a problem with minimus, then you show them this statute. In essence, we read that minimus is a Latin word which means we send, and is a carryover from English common law. It is an order for a judge that directs the duly appointed officer of the court to apprehend an individual and deliver him to the appropriate jail, and further directs the county sheriff to receive and place that individual in jail. It is based on the legal principle that a person released on bail awaiting trial is technically still in custody, with the bondsman responsible for ensuring his client appears before the judge. The key part of the statute, however, is said officer of the court is empowered to bear arms, to cross state lines, to enter any domicile, day or night. In other words, we could do anything. It was a get-out-of-jail-free card. She made copies, handed us a folder. We thanked her and walked out. Al waved and turned back to his desk. The Doberman watched us with eyes alert as a ferret. Outside, I looked at Alec and nodded. Our first cold call, and we were bounty hunters. "This is going to be fun," he said, rubbing his hands together. "Stop that, you look like a pawnbroker." We both laughed and we got into his truck. The address was in unincorporated Adams County. A lot of bikers lived there because there was no police presence, only intermittent sheriff patrols. Less law enforcement presence was a selling point in the housing market there. We did a quick reconnaissance just before midnight. The house, a one-story double-wide with shingle siding, was in a cul-de-sac. A car and a pickup parked nose in by the gate in front. A sidewalk ran outside the fence to the left side of the house and stopped at a kitchen door. One street lamp lit a tiny circle with much of the rest of the cul-de-sac in deep shadow. We found a good spot for a stakeout under a broad cottonwood 2 houses down. We had a war bag in the back of the truck. In it, we had our pistols, handcuffs, and a single-shot 12-gauge shotgun with the barrel sawed off to 20 inches. After a little bit of thought, I said, "So when he comes out to go to work, I'll take him down. You cover me and the house with the shotgun. Does that sound good?" Alex nodded. "Sounds good. Try not to get hurt." "Fuck you, Peanut. What time do you want to get here?" We were going to use Alex's pickup to transport the guy, so everything depended on him. "So in other words, what time can you get your ass up?" "Me? I'm always getting your lazy ass out of bed. That's what I like about you. You're big, but you're dumb." 5. We should be here by 5. 5 it is. Pick me up at 4, which should give us enough time to get here and set up. We stopped a block away and armed ourselves. I shoved the warrant into my coat pocket, and then we drove to the cul-de-sac. Exhaust rose in clouds from a car parked in front of the house. "Shit, he's leaving already. Grab the shotgun, Alec. I'll pull that son of a bitch out." "Let me block him in first." Alec roared up and stopped just off the rear bumper. I jumped out and ran to the driver's window. A woman's face turned to me, her eyes big with fear. I yanked open the door. "Where is he? Still inside?" She mouthed, "No." I ran to the kitchen door with the woman following me and tried the lock. She tackled me and wrapped her arms around me in a bear hug. She was at least 6 foot tall, dressed in a tan trench coat and heels, with her long blonde hair tied back in a bun. She was a big girl and strong, but I wasn't after her, so I stepped back instinctively. She let go of me and jammed a key in the lock. The door cracked open. I grabbed the doorknob. She grabbed me again. Alec ran up with a shotgun, laid it against both of us, and shoved us through the door. The interior was completely dark. No night light, no radio dials lit, nothing. The woman began screaming, "They're going to kill you! Get up! Get up!" Then she stabbed her keys at my eyes. I grabbed her wrist. She tried to knee me, and I blocked with my knee. "Get up! Get up!" She stabbed harder. I squeezed her wrists. I expected someone to erupt from the darkness, guns blazing, but nobody did. How could anybody sleep through this racket? We struggled in the darkness long enough for our eyes to adjust. Still, except for a woman's screams, the house was still as a mausoleum. I saw a hallway to my left. "Over here, Alec." I pushed the woman away and made for the door. The hallway turned to the right. A door opened into a black void at the end. "This way." I got 2 steps before she tackled me again, her keys fishing for my eyes. I seized both wrists and pushed her back. She came off the wall, bringing her knee up. I pushed her back again. Alec laid the shotgun across our bodies and shoved us towards the open door. "Oh my God, get up! Get up! They're going to kill you!" Her screams were louder and more desperate. My God, I thought, this guy literally sleeps like the dead. She jammed me against the wall, working those keys. Thump, I pushed her back. Thump, she pushed me back. Alex shoved us further down the hallway. Scream, thump, thump, shove, and repeat. Finally, we were in the doorway. A king-size wireframe bed faced the door. A dark shape lay upon it, unmoving. I had her wrists, and she turned to the bed. "Get up!" The dark figure sat up with a pistol in his hand. It was pointed at my head. "Get out of here, you son of a bitch, or I'll kill you." I froze. She froze. We both stared at the pistol. A dark cylinder snaked between our faces. The shotgun's hammer made an ugly clack as Alec aimed at the man's face. I looked at the barrel inches from my face. She did the same. We both looked back at the pistol. The space between the seconds stretched on and on. "Okay, you got me." He threw the pistol in the corner. "Don't shoot." I let go of the woman. She ran down the hall. I switched on the light and retrieved the pistol while Alec covered the biker. I turned just as the man got out of bed. He was huge. He stood up and up and up until I was looking at the ceiling. His naked body was covered in tattoos, panthers, flaming choppers ridden by nude women, dragons and other even stranger creatures writhed across his body as he put on his pants. "The cops are on their way, you assholes," the woman shouted from the kitchen. "You're going to jail." I looked at Alec. We both had the same thought. We need to get these weapons out of here before the cops arrive. I handcuffed Mr. Tattoo as Alec took the guns out to the truck. The first deputy showed up as he came back in. 2 detectives followed on their heels. They took everybody's IDs. While one detective left to run us for wants and warrants, the other, a female detective, questioned us. "So what happened here?" We told her the entire story, starting from when we drove up. The other detective returned and she conferred with him, then turned back to us. "Can you show me the order?" "Yep, I could." I reached into my pocket and no warrant. "We have a warrant, detective. I don't know what happened to it. Run them through NCIC." We did. Nothing shows up. She looked very serious now. "Let's go down to the station and sort this out." They placed Mr. Tattoo and his girlfriend in a squad car. We were allowed to follow the detectives to the county seat in Brighton. Once there, the Tattoos were placed in a cell. I felt pretty good about that until we were led to another cell. "We have a call into the county clerk's office. We'll get back to you." The detective lowered her voice. "I'd think about getting a lawyer if we don't turn up a warrant. You're looking at burglary, kidnapping, felony menacing, and assault." A few minutes later, she returned. "There is no bench warrant on file at the clerk's office. The judge's office won't open up for another 45 minutes. We will call them as soon as they open." We knew a warrant had been issued, but why wasn't there a copy on file anywhere in the system? We were a little worried by now. "What do you think happened to our copy?" Alex said. I was racking my brain about that. It must have fallen out of my pocket while I was wrestling with that Amazon. I'll bet she flushed it along with her drugs. "Yeah, but why does no one else have a copy on file? Could the system be that corrupt? Did Al send us out without a legit warrant?" We heard footsteps approaching. She didn't open the cell this time. Bad sign. District court clerk has nothing. I gotta tell you guys, this isn't looking good. She let that hang for a beat. You need to tell me something about this thing? We had a warrant. I figured if I said it enough, it would be true. I didn't want to think about a career making license plates in Canyon City. She gave us a long look, shrugged, and walked away. We know any lawyers? Dumb question, but I was trying to be funny. None that like us much. True enough, there was nothing to say about after that. More footsteps, a couple of people at least, walking briskly towards our cell. The detective and a deputy stopped at the door. The deputy opened the cell. The detective waved us out. You're free to go, she said as the door swung open, but we're going to stop by my office first. She motioned us to a couple of chairs. She sat at the edge of the desk. The judge's clerk didn't have a copy of the warrant either. She went into the judge's office and found a copy on his desk. It hadn't been filed yet. She stood up. Next time you two come into my town, you contact us first, before you bust any doors down. It was 11 a.m., so it took a while to find a bar that was open. So that went well. I sipped my Jack Black. Alec took a pull on his Long Island iced tea. He normally didn't drink, so I had to ask, you really gonna drink that shit this early? Yeah, and I think you're gonna drive. We sat there for a while. Alec got halfway through his drink before he said anything else. He knew I was gonna blow his face off if he shot you. He took another sip. He couldn't shoot me because I used his girlfriend for cover. Ah, being small does have advantages after all. Fuck you, now we're even. I remembered when we were commercial divers years ago, and I pulled him out of the turbine blades during a dam inspection. I gave him shit about that for months. Oh, you mean that thing? Shit, man, your kids are gonna owe me for the rest of your life on that one. But thank you anyway for saving my life. We laughed and finished our drinks. Outside, the sky was clear, the sun was bright and beautiful, and we took the rest of the day off. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Our next reader, Thalia Otero, is an aspiring Mexican-American poet who grew up in Glencoe, Minnesota. Her goals include becoming an editor, whether it's at a poetry or a nonfiction journal, and traveling to Canada. Currently, she's an intern at Yellow Medicine Review and a tutor at the Writing Center here. In her spare time, she likes to read anything she can get her hands on and bake cookies. Please welcome Thalia.
Hello everybody. Today I'll be reading 6 poems and an essay. The first poem is called Crickets. You refer to your medical Bible for symptoms of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Your pointer finger travels down the lines in pursuit of a diagnosis that best suits me. But I swear, it's just crickets playing tennis in a bathroom heaters, Dr. Porter. I read the letters on the art chart with my right eye covered. C-R-I-C-K-E-T. According to Noon, chose the crickets. That means the meatloaf's done. I'd give you a piece if you refer to your medical Bible for symptoms of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. The stethoscope played me like a jammed cassette tape, funked up and out of order. I breathe in and my lungs vibrate from beating wings. I breathe out and there's my heart, you see. But I swear, it's just crickets playing tennis in a bathroom heaters, Dr. Porter. The lime epoxy on the garage concrete floor sloughed off like the skins of, no, but the corners, no. Last night, I heard a muffled chirp behind the drywalls, so I went a little bit broomstick crazy. So stop referring to your medical Bible for symptoms of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Scorching lemon soap bubbles hopped up my arms, and suddenly I am 27 years older. As they burrowed, vein roots and hair follicles were pulled out for easy disposal. I'm clutter-free, but I swear it's just crickets playing tennis in the bathroom heaters, Dr. Porter. How long are you going to keep me strapped to this chair? You tore down the borders, left me pill-popping and scrambled brain with eyes playing Channel Rainbow static on TV. You refer to your medical Bible for symptoms of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. But I swear it's not crickets playing tennis in the bathroom heaters, Dr. Porter. This next poem is called Within the Lines. Since you so desperately want me to smile, try to color me senselessly with your cheap waxy crayons of radical red and mango tango, but I prefer if you lay out the sun glow or tinkle in pink. Mama says people ought to show their true colors in their own time, so there ain't no reason to act like a fresa, strutting their Gucci shoe knockoffs. Airheads who think they're fresh because they never lift a pinky to people not akin to elite species. Us thick-skinned faces hate feeling warm. We're in sync to shades of uncomfortable crayons reserved for weather forecasts, of drenched skies filled with mossy shadows, midnight purples, and blues that need attention too. This next poem is called Put This On, Sylvia Plath. Within it, I'll have quotes by Sylvia Plath. Why can't I try on different lives like dresses to see which fits best and is more becoming? Here, Sylvia. Try her on. See if she fits. Her breakfast like eyes, strawberry or crazed Nutella, maybe even caramel macchiato laziness, but she munches on her toast in a pause second and minute and hour and day, and her chimney puffs out monthly NASDAQ reports, smoking numbers that billow up into bills. How we need another soul to cling to. Let's agree to disagree. Her single Pringle life with the neighbors like roaches lurking in the hallways, tunneling under her blue speckled carpet, sniffing for tidbits to gossip about. She should go out more. Maybe she'll finally find herself a fine young man. Love is in the air this morning. And she marches out her front door and sprays lavender Febreze like it's from Pope Alexander's holy water bubble bath. Her silent wildfires, with ravenous tendrils that flicker and waver in her frightened days. If you listen closely on a Sunday morning shower, she vigorously scrubs the leftover woman inked in her arms, legs, half-baked muffin top. She won't stop. Mama and Papa's haughty ha-ha disdain pulls on her ears. Naughty child. No man will ever marry a 30-year-old woman. They always bring back from the market pictures of a Mr. Salmon and Mr. Tuna, and in turn cast my picture into the sea, hoping for a bite. There must be quite a few things that a hot bath won't cure. Her pendulum, bold and deliberate, swinging and swaying and crashing into corners of tables, and God forbid those hidden Legos and pushpins who have a mind of their own. Cradling her hips, her crimson beatboxing jammies sink into the sofa, and she dives into words upon pages upon books. Books understand her. Books are better than people. Books don't drag you to parties or make noise. What? She doesn't fit? That's okay. That's okay. This next poem is called Who Stole Our Cookies? Fat chance we'll ever believe a rat in chintzy rags with a weave of matted fur with a cable tie. We peel his skin with an X-Acto knife and slice to his gala apple core. He looked like the police report from Channel 4, a fellow charged with assault, a meth junkie garbed in gangster clothes, or something like that. Yeah, close enough. We then tapped into his limbic system and retrieved his hippocampus. But we're too keen on finding mushy, putrid sins, grinding him down. So we squeeze the juice out of him, grinding him down to a dry pulp, until we notice he isn't the culprit. His memories don't quite line up. Oopsie daisy, let's quickly dust this under the rug. It wasn't a hoax. Ship whatever remains to his folks. Throw in a couple $1,000. We fucked up. Clasp our hands together, bow down real low, iron our Sunday best. This next poem is called Tombstones. A while back, I drove to Getchell Graveyard. At least here, peace forever hums in soft decibels. Chatting crows, too, keep a hushed melody. Up ahead, the stones that hid among the lofty grass were drenched in weeds. I sheared the furry moss and scrubbed the grime away. I jammed a towel into an E and scooped up sticky mold. The marble cracks like spider veins reveal a name. Amy Jones. Who last spoke of her name? Who thinks of her? I cleaned the next, and the next one until I got to yours and only brushed away the twigs. You said, forget about me. Never, Pa. I'll prune the purslane sprouts, the tangled bramble riddled with wintergreen berries, steer the fiddlehead ferns into a winding curl. and only then I may rest. Before I left, I walked to your grave. I lit a candle, placed a yellow rose in a candle sprite, and even then you fussed about a speck of dirt I missed, a leaf unscathed from doom. The crows began to call your cries. Clean them again, 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 again. This next poem is called The Scaredy Cat Monster. I'm sorry for double dipping the spoon into the peanut butter jar. I'm sorry, but also not sorry, my sweet Lila, for accidentally scarring you with Playboy magazines during band camp in 4th grade. I'm sorry, Mama. I can't hover over the kitchen floor. You're always telling me, no te pises el suelo, when I forget to wear socks. Madre de Dios, I'll catch the influenza if I dare disobey. I'm sorry, random stranger at Walmart, that I'm such an Akko taco. They say humans are born pure, but I was born with butterfingers, 2 left feet, 4 eyes, except the manual How to Human was never installed to the system. I hope Barnes & Noble still have a copy. I'm sorry, little me, that I wish to be, that my limitations seem to fluctuate and constantly calibrate and recalculate the energy it takes to erase the resting sad face or get out of bed in the morning. You see, if I multiply expectations with desires and carry over the panic attacks, then that equals sanity, right? I'm sorry, Mr. Therapist, for all those bouts of whatchamacallits, these obtuse episodes of animosity and death stares, a rickety spine curved from years of self-neglect, frustration, over what? I don't know. I forget monsters have monsters too. I'm sorry that I needed to spend some time alone. I thought you would understand. Is there a level to unlock to regain your trust? A boss to kill? Say something, Jonah. I'm sorry because that's what Poppy taught me to say. Now you're just another human who knows. I'm sorry for ever saying sorry. This last one is called Yes, I Am Mexican, but No, I'm Not Bilingual. If I'm a baby cocktail consisting of my parents' genetics and characteristics, then I'm the tropical concoction of a pina colada with a shot of tequila, shaken, not stirred. Or perhaps I'm an odd product of a loving, self-conscious mother and a strict goofball father. If my father had never pulled up to the curb in his red 1992 Chevrolet truck one hot, sluggish day, as is always the case in Calexico, California, then I wouldn't be here. Likewise, a Tupperware bowl of guacamole cannot be made with the avocado and the seasonings. Just like the old love at first sight fairy tale cannot come true without some moxie and a pinch of va-va-voon. The more I think about it, the more their story crosses into stalker territory. There's a relentless, spiffy mustache, fully determined man, keen on getting a certain way to notice him. My mother was surprised he was bent on winning, like a cherry in a Pac-Man arcade game. From her curly fried black hair to her semi-Betty Boo figure, my mother had those dulce de leche eyes that denied each of his invitations for a date, no matter how many times he asked. My father is stubborn, like me. Until one day she gave in and slid into my father's truck. All in the name of love, I suppose. But to my parents, their Cebolla roots run far deeper than what they've ever shown to me, and what they're never willing to show me. Once they were married, they made the decision to bring me to the quiet town of Glencoe, Minnesota, where pointy church buildings dominated the vast aerial frontier, at least in my area. They heard from my tia Diana, the first family member to move to Minnesota, that work was good here. That was all they needed to hear, an optimistic future for their little Mongola, as they like to call me. Their 3-day journey, with their clothes, some kitchen utensils, and a microwave stashed in the back of the truck was all they needed to start a new life. Growing up as a Mexican girl in a predominantly white neighborhood was a puzzling situation. Before I even blubbered my first Spanish word, I learned how to say dog and cat and my please and thank yous. Yes, I'm aware that I had a chance to learn Spanish, but my parents raised me on an English foundation instead, because that is what they wanted. They didn't want me to struggle through high school and college, unable to understand what the professors were pointing at on black chalkboards. They didn't want me to mumble grammatically incorrect phrases during class discussions. I did what was expected of me. I never understood the assumption that Mexicans were expected to be able to switch between 2 tongues with ease, even if some never bothered at an attempt to roll their R's. I was placed in an ESL program during my elementary years because of my ethnicity, where I was basically retaught everything I had learned in class. I never got along with any of my Mexican peers, since they actually were fluent in Spanish. I was just an alien who knew my vowels. To be honest, the only true friendship that formed and lasted to today was with a white person, but we were too busy playing as hungry wolves to ever notice our different complexions. I hated every stinking minute of my ESL days, and as I cried over painted pine cones one day, I remember making a vow to never return to that crammed, color-coordinated classroom ever again. I swore vengeance on the licorice, beady-eyed teacher who tried to shush me. "Stop crying. Tell me, why are you crying?" she begged, but the snot kept dribbling down my nose. I wished I was bilingual upon a red-glittered pine cone that day. While my mother may be as severe as the whooping she threatened me and my brother from time to time, she always have a soft, flower tortilla heart. No matter how many times she resorted to the scolding, "Quieres que te pegues con mi chancla?" threat, we instantly fell to our knees, begging for her not to hit us with a rubber sandal. Fortunately, my parents never reached that point. 1 month groundings were enough to whip us back into place, and we still found ways to shorten our gruesome life sentence. There were loopholes in their systems, and I was more successful than my brother, who could never get to stay out of their watchful eyes. I know Mother's been struggling with her demons. It's one of those things where I notice the difference in her posture, the crumpled up tissues underneath her bed, but she keeps her problems to herself, just like me. As a wallflower, I soaked it all in. Every hushed sob behind a thin wall, every burned chile poblano. When her sister Claudia died a year ago on Earth Day, she had to quickly fly over to California to attend the funeral and care for the family she left behind. She did all the cooking and cleaning since my Nana can barely walk without her cane. Out of the 5 family members who stayed with my Nana, not one lifted a finger to help her wash the dishes or fold the laundry. They mostly stayed in their rooms, each one absorbed in their own little worlds. Egg-encrusted pans, empty dog bowls, clogged shower drains. The filth piled up like a 7-layered cake. No one talked, no one discussed the death. There was a small fight over one of my cousins who slept in Claudia's bed, but things would eventually settle into the quiet air. They always begged for money, begged for a little something to splurge on, begged for more. It was always, "I want, yo quiero." My brother and I can live comfortably without having to worry when our next meal is, but Mother still gave and gave because she doesn't have the heart to say no to her family. It's funny, I've been called things that I'm not. Asian, Indian, Eskimo, even Hmong. If I had a brave voice, I'd set them straight, but in a polite manner. Let's not be rude. I am the queso fresco stuffed inside my mother's enchiladas, the ingredient that helped bring out the spice in the green tomatillo sauce, and is supported by the corn tortilla, holding everything together. My family will always be there when I once again feel like a speck of lint in a maroon sweater. The world might spew some hate at me, but I might as well give them a hug because I was raised to love everyone even when they glared at me, like the alien I'm proud of being. There is no room to be an ignorant girl god raised on a tiny goody two-shoes pedestal. That is what my parents wanted to. It is hard to wrap my head around the whole love shenanigans my parents harbor, how their love will always rise back up to the surface as a flower for a friendly reminder. To all those curious creatures, yes, I am Mexican, but no, I am not bilingual. Thank you.
Thank you, Thalia. Our last reader is Shay Wright. Shay was born to a deteriorating community in East River, South Dakota, where mechanistic efficiency and compliance were valued above intellectual curiosity and personal fulfillment. Being stripped of all agency from an early age and well into adulthood taught Shay to be just as uncompromising in the face of adversity in the pursuit of his own goals. As both an outspoken critic of religion and scholar thereof, Shay rarely shies away from challenging social norms and often arbitrary taboos. Man is a political animal, as Aristotle rightly observed, and as such, Shay rarely hesitates to let his experiences with wealth discrepancy and the dangerous rise of the far right inform his work. Ultimately, he's a laconic individual who doesn't really like talking about himself. Please welcome Shay.
My first essay, which I would like to read, is called My Independent Education Program, which was about a particularly harsh winter when I was a kid. 2006 was a particularly harsh and unforgiving winter. I was in the 6th grade then, and would normally ride my scooter to school, always pushing myself to make the route in shorter time. I was forced on hiatus after the snow had fallen, when I would be forced to rely on either my old man or my older sister for rides. One particularly brutal day, the wind was so unforgiving that it gave the illusion of snowfall, while the thick, oppressive overcast sedated the world's colors like a black and white movie. My old man was driving me to school that day when it came to a hard stop and shouted, "Fucking American cars!" The gaslight of his 1998 Oldsmobile was flashing. "Do yourself a favor, Shane, and never buy an American car. They suck!" "Duly noted," I said dryly, as I looked out the window trying to steady my nerves. "And zip your coat up. Look at the wind chill," he said, pointing at the thermometer on the dashboard. "You know what the wind chill is, Shane? You have the cold, then you have the wind, that makes it even colder. Seriously, it's bitchin' cold. You know all these damn liberals going on about global warming. Well, where is it? Oh, it's a huge government scam to get more money." "Well, there's the difference between weather and climate, so I started before my old man exclaimed, "Oh, bullshit! You'll change your tune when you start paying taxes. Then we'll see how much propaganda you'll be listening to." In my adolescence, I learned to shrug off my old man's rants with simple, yeah, sure, as opposed to attempting half-informed counter-arguments based on my intuition. Although said intuition would be proven correct through higher education, I was still once an uneducated 12-year-old who only knew how to spell pseudo-intellectual mush to save face. My old man stopped at a corner at the edge of the school block and let me out. "All right, have a good day at school. Can't you take me up to the front?" He chuckled. "Sorry, Shane, but that road is so narrow. It's hard turning at that corner. It's easy for me to just drive around the next block to get to work." "All right, see you later, Dad," I said, throwing my bag into a snowbank and hopping out after it. The middle school, the only one in that shitty small town east of South Dakota, was an elongated building with a separate entrance for each grade, one of the many arbitrary rules which were indifferently enforced with totalitarian command. Each was facing west towards a park which was a quarter of a mile in circumference, separated by a narrow road. There's no way I can know exactly, but if I had to guess the temperature, I'd say it was between 2 and negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit. What I do know, and will never forget, is that powerful blast of wind blowing the snow off the ground and directly into my face. Maybe it was just snowing that day. I can't know for sure. I just wanted to get to the 6th grade floor where I knew I'd be packed in with the rest of the 6th grade class like beef cattle on a factory farm, placing me in perfect proximity for the sport of bullies who knew I had no friends. My mother had given me a winter jacket designed with an insulating technology making it warmer, but my old man didn't trust its slimmer appearance. Instead, I wore a bulky red winter coat, which, combined with my incredibly heavy bag, kept me from running. I wanted to swear, but the horror stories the pious told me of hell made me fear damnation more than any blizzard. My fingers and toes began to go numb and even started to hurt. My inner thighs developed that strange tingling sensation accompanied by below zero weather. But the most distinct feeling was my face. It was the only part of my body uncovered, contending with the full force of the wind and snow. As I passed the 7th grade entrance, a numbness plastered on my face like a mask of ice. I continued unwavering, complaining the whole way about how bitching cold it was. 6th grade is not a year I remember fondly. It was the year I truly came to loathe being in special ed. I know I was still studying basic arithmetic while my peers were taking more comprehensive courses. I know my teachers assumed I was stupid, always offering me modified tests or help with reading. I know whenever I asked a simple question, my instructor would sit down and walk me through the entire problem. I knew those damn meetings my parents would meet with my counselors and scrutinize every detail of my work and behavior and reinforce how bad I was at math. I know every teacher and counselor dismissed my expressions of bleakness and anxiety, which I would one day recognize as depression, and instead focus on an imagined learning disorder. And how my sister breezed through school effortlessly, yet had no ambition for a future. And how my classmates burned out and didn't even try to improve their circumstances. Most of all, I regret not burning my IEP before I graduated. But I persisted that cold winter morning, knowing what I would have to endure that day. When my asthma began reacting to the bitter air, I paused briefly in front of the 8th grade entrance. As I forced my lungs to expand to prevent an attack, I saw that complaining wasn't furthering my cause. I could have gone through the center entrance, but a teacher would have found me and given me detention. No, there was no shortcuts. I'd do it myself, the hard way. For poetry, I would like to begin with a poem that I wrote called "Richard Cory is Dead" sometime last year, which was sort of the result of reading the poem Richard Cory shortly before I listened to The Ballad of Hollis Brown by Bob Dylan. Whenever Richard Cory went downtown, it was Hollis Brown who looked up at him, that Anglo-Protestant gentleman who was richer than a king. But Hollis, his wife, and 5 children were left without their meat and cursed their bread, since they were so hungry they had forgotten how to smile. Then Richard Cory went home one night and put a bullet in his head, as Hollis Brown spent his last lone dollar on 7 shotgun shells. Then 7 people fell dead in a South Dakota farm, while the Silver Shirts lynched Eugene Debs, so the Italians could make their trains run on time. Somewhere in the Netherlands, a young girl's diary was cut short. Then, like the Bloody Saxons, the Brown Shirts made their move, and like the Bloody Brown Shirts, Koba made his move, his eyes fixed on the ice pick that was leaning against the wall. Somewhere down in Mexico, Trotsky said, "All this must end." Somewhere down in Mexico, Koba said, "You must end." Then there was a dead Jew on a Mexican farm. Then there were a million dead Jews in Auschwitz. Now a million Mexicans lay dying down in Texas. The Romanovs are dead, replaced by a new Tsar of Crimea, as William Pelly rises like Lazarus in the White House, commanding Robert Bowers to buy an AR-15 to lay siege to the Tree of Life to fight international finance. The prophet said, "Things fall apart, the center cannot hold," as the widening gyre collapsed. For Richard Corey lays clean-favored, imperially slim, and quietly arrayed in his coffin, as good Tom Joad looks down on him. For my second and final poem, for this presentation is titled South Dakota, which is about where I grew up. Thousands upon thousands of miles of barbed wire fence, strung up by white settlers out to manifest the synthetic destiny of a Lebensraum to the Pacific. They brought with them bullets and Bibles to sweep out the savages, since only white Anglo-Saxon Protestants are allowed to live in a place calling itself America. Thousands of miles of barbed wire fence where the sovereign Sioux once took up the sword, just as the Gauls had 1,000 years prior against Caesar and his minions, to protect kith and kin from legions of Union soldiers who'd forgotten their history, of the naked forests of Albion, which were raided, raped, and conquered to make room for a place calling itself Rome. Thousands upon thousands of miles of barbed wire fence where white settlers have forgotten their history and raided, raped, and conquered in the Roman way, driving natives beneath wild horses before completing their empire by conquering half a country. Now these imperialists seek to build wasteful walls in a futile attempt at stopping humans' natural migration, as if Mexicans have less of a right to live in a place calling itself America. Thousands upon thousands of miles of barbed wire fence defining the sovereign borders of a white ethno-state of hobby farms, where families homeschool their children in their backward bourgeois ways, while the proletariat herd their children to their town's only schools, to be miseducated by underpaid drill sergeants, training them for their destinies of labor, making damn sure they know about the evils of Karl Marx. They won't even think of seizing the means of production. After all, someone has to do the grunt work of a place calling itself America. Thousands upon thousands of miles of barbed wire fence inhabited by people without empathy, always looking inward, associating only with direct mirrors of themselves as they look upon societal outliers with contempt, sheathed behind unexpressive faces like stainless steel blades. Their own mediocrity is the barometer they judge others. So you better be a factory quality Homo sapien, but don't forget, cutthroat individualism is the highest law in a place calling itself America. Thousands upon thousands of miles of barbed wire fence enclosing mass graves of so many millions of innocents who were slaughtered beneath 4 white faces carved into a mountain. A great monument to the American Reich. The statue was carved in territory given to the Sioux in fair trade, but was stolen back as soon as gold was discovered. A slaver stands at the head of the monument as they look down the black floods flowing into Standing Rock, with a gaze as indignant and indifferent as the population of a place calling itself America. Thank you.
Well, that's it. You made it through. Let's give them another round of applause. I think they did really well.